In July 1952, on its maiden voyage, the SS United States shattered the record for the fastest crossing of the Atlantic by a passenger ship, steaming from New York to Le Havre in less than 4 days. In 1969, when it went into dry dock in Newport News, Virginia, and its crew members left their belongings in their cabins, not knowing they'd never sail on it again, it still held the record. And it still does today, though it's been retired for nearly 47 years, and motionless at a pier in Philadelphia for nearly 20. On February 4, Crystal Cruises announced that it had signed an option to purchase the ship from the SS United States Conservancy, the nonprofit that Gibbs directs. Crystal, a subsidiary of a cruise and resort company called Genting Hong Kong, plans to spend this year studying the feasibility of restoring the United States as a luxury cruise vessel, which could cost as much as $700 million. In the meantime, it will pay the $60,000 or so a month it costs to maintain the ship. Last fall, those monthly costs were threatening to doom the great ship to a sad fate, hauled out by its anchor chains onto some Texas beach and scrapped. "I thought she was going down," said Gibbs. But the Conservancy launched a last-ditch appeal that brought new interest and enough cash from the ship's many fans to allow it to hang on a few more months. Against all odds, it now has a chance to return to sea. The ship's age will make that a challenge. All sorts of standards have changed. Among the Conservancy's FAQ on the ship, I found this entry: "How do I research whether one of my ancestors traveled on the SS United States? Since I myself crossed the Atlantic 3 times on the ship, that shivered my timbers a bit. If the United States were a building, it would be a national historical landmark. If it were an airplane, it would be in the Smithsonian. Because it's an ocean liner, and surely one of the most beautiful, with its gracile lines and stacks swept back as if by the wind. It's tied up at a pier on the Delaware River, between freighters offloading fruit and cocoa. When you stand on its bow today, you gaze not at foaming Atlantic breakers but across Christopher Columbus Boulevard at a Longhorn Steakhouse and a Lowe's home improvement store. Why does this nation forget its historical accomplishments?" Gibbs mused as we took refuge in the Longhorn restaurant from a blustery January day. "Why is this ship languishing in obscurity? Through the Venetian blinds we could see its blade-like bow, ready to slice across traffic into our booth. The shape of the hull below the waterline was one of the secrets of the ship's tremendous speed, and it was a military secret, as the United States was designed to be converted into a troopship in time of war, though it never was. Classified to, until the 1970s, were the ship's 4 18-foot bronze propellers. They were designed by an engineer named Elaine Kaplan. According to A Man and His Ship, a biography by Stephen Ujafuza, William Francis Gibbs couldn't quite comprehend that an attractive woman could be an excellent engineer, but he prized excellence above all else, and so he lived with that paradox. Gibbs himself, though he designed one of the greatest ships of the 20th century, as well as 2,700 Liberty ships during World War II, had no formal training in his craft. After getting a law degree from Columbia University, he'd lasted only a year as a lawyer. But he'd been drawing ships since 1894 when, as an 8-year-old boy, he'd watched the launch of a 550-foot steamship, the SS St. Louis, in the Delaware River, a few miles upriver from where the United States now floats. In 1913, in his father's attic, he began drawing what nearly 4 decades later would become the United States, a 990-foot ship intended, Ujafuza writes, to be the fastest and best ever built, intended to surpass the ill-fated Titanic in every respect. It was the year after the iceberg incident. Decades later, when Gibbs finally got the chance to design his ship in reality, he divided it into 20 watertight compartments so a mere iceberg couldn't sink it. He made it close to fireproof. He'd watched the Normandy burn and capsize at the pier in Manhattan in part by using no wood on board except in the Steinway grand pianos. And he made it lightweight by building almost the entire superstructure of aluminum, giving it a power-to-weight ratio the seas had never seen.